Hey, it's your girl Sadie's, host of the Black Millennial Mom podcast, and I'm so glad you're here. If you're a millennial mother or a father, this podcast is for you. We talk about the real struggle the parenting journey comes with, and these conversations tend to get a tad bit spicy. So this is a space where parents can be themselves and may use some colorful language, if you know what I mean, from time to time. So if your little ones are around, this might be the perfect moment to slip on those headphones and take a break for a second. Other than that, sit back, relax, and enjoy the conversation. Welcome to the Black Millennial Mom podcast. All right, you guys, so I happened to do this amazing podcast not too long ago, maybe like 4 or 5 months ago, that happened to be filled with all men. I walked into this podcast thinking it was going to go one way, and it actually went the complete opposite way. I felt like I was set up. I felt like I was ganged up on. But then after I watched it back, I realized this is a great perspective of fathers in the game that I needed on my actual podcast. So I brought in some elites, if you could say that, right? I feel comfortable saying elites in this game.
Yes.
From this podcast, we have Cole and we have Jay. Again, this podcast. You guys are what, 96 episodes in, or what is it now?
We're 107.
107 podcasts.
Yes.
107.
They cater.
And it's this dot podcast.
This dot.
Yeah.
Let's get it right.
Absolutely,
This dot
absolutely.
podcast. And not even that, make sure that you guys know this too. They are both, all three of them, we're missing one, but
Yep.
they are all fathers. So it's a very beautiful take on motherhood that we talked about and my journey with things. And I felt like, again, this would be a good time to have a conversation about fathers, because I'm constantly getting little DMs and messages like, when are you going to bring in guys? Yeah. When are you going to have conversations with guys and get their perspective? Well, here you go. You finally got it.
The testosterone is here.
We're here. We're here to represent.
The testy is here.
Guys finally giving the heat, right?
And you know, we were gentlemen. We weren't giving you the, we weren't going in too hard.
Really?
I think we were just pushing back on a few things, but it wasn't too much. I think we were being, very respectful.
With that being said, you both have kids. Let's talk about ages really quick. Cole, tell me the ages of your children.
2 and 6.
Okay.
Yeah, so I have 3. My girl's my oldest. She's 12, and then 2 boys, 11 and 9.
Goodness.
Oh, and sorry, yes, and I have a boy and a girl.
Boy and a girl.
The baby's a girl, and then she has an older brother.
So with your situation, Cole, you actually went through the whole pandemic situation, just like me.
Yes.
Essentially, right?
Yes.
And I want to talk about that for a second, of how that was for you. As a father, the first child should have been a breeze, a different kind of situation. But having a baby in a pandemic for you as a father, what did that feel like?
Man, it's so trying to balance out my pregnant wife and my spazzing out 3-year-old at the time. Yo, it was literally a zoo in my house.
At all times.
At all times. And it's like you have no break, and then also trying to balance out, because my son was in ECE at the time. He had just really, he had started ECE at 2, and then he was just kind of, at the time he was fully in. And, trying to entertain him, trying to balance out doing Zoom Zoom school for they did class for maybe 45 minutes.
Oh my God.
And trying to keep him focused was a major task. And then when, 7, my baby was born, trying to balance all that out between you have a newborn baby, you're trying to deal with the pandemic, you're trying to work your kid into school. Man, it was nuts.
A lot.
It was a lot. It was a lot, but I had a lot of support though.
And I have to say, if you ever met his son, it's like him times 10.
Man,
Oh my
1,000.
gosh.
He's
Are you
1,000.
serious?
Conversationalist. He's all about the party.
Yeah.
He doesn't stop.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
He doesn't stop.
Yeah. He's the type that says, "Hey, Dad, but the tequila up there is a little low."
Oh no. Are you serious? He's checking for you.
Hey,
He's like, Dad, you need to drink up. I'm trying to get turned up.
As you having older kids during that pandemic, was that relatable as what he said as far as in trying to balance all of that? Or did it seem like a breeze for you?
You know what? It hit me in a different way, right? Because my kids are older, and it made me realize how my kids are at school, right? Because you have an idea of what, how your kids are, mannerisms and things like that. But it's on full display when you have to also help teach them, get them focused,
Right.
and things like that. So it was in a different way. It was definitely chaotic, but it was like, oh, I see how you act at school.
Right.
Like, you can't get it past me now. So now when the teacher calls and says, you know what, we were having problems with, Mark or Michelle, and it's like, oh, I see now. Like,
Now it
I
all
can
makes
relate.
sense,
Yeah,
right? It
absolutely.
clicked.
It
Was
did.
you writing referrals?
How would you handle it?
They had to
Full
have
on detention and everything.
Yeah, exactly. Hall passes. Yeah, man. We had
That's what it was
snacks.
like?
Yeah,
You
exactly.
had snacks and everything.
Yeah, we had the outline
You were like
snacks.
holding it down with just you with the kids, or how did that look?
no. It was
a
definitely
team effort.
It was with my wife. So
We'll
it
get
was,
into what
yes.
team efforts look like.
She was
here.
the principal, and I was like the gym teacher.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you came in with the exercise.
There you go. I came
That
in with
was
the
me.
fun.
That was you too.
Man, dads are relegated to all physical activity.
No.
Pandemics, picnics, baby showers, jumpy houses.
Yeah.
Jumpy house.
Mom sits there and kicks it.
Tea time.
Dad,
Absolutely.
Dad is the one.
So there was never math. There was never
Oh, no.
English.
Oh, no, all
there
the
was
walks.
never history.
All the walks.
Juneteenth?
No, walks.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
we
you
did.
talked a
You know,
little-
we did
you
Black
touched on
History
that.
and things like that. We definitely had to do that. So, but
Okay.
yeah, for the dads, we do the extracurricular
yeah.
activities.
Having a baby in the middle of a pandemic was a lot for me. We talked about that in your guys' podcast. I talked
Absolutely.
about how that struggle was for me, but we didn't get a chance in yours to really go into how that felt for you and you going through it. Was it stressful in the sense because you're watching, your woman go through all these doctor's appointments, possibly alone?
Yeah.
In the midst of that, there's
Yeah.
stress about being there when the baby is born. Like, what did it look like?
That was the hard part, though, because, for my son, I was there every step of the way, right? Pretty much I didn't go to every appointment, what I mean? But the bulk of the appointments, I was there. It was no issue when he was born in terms of who can be in the hospital and things of
Right.
that nature. But then when the pandemic hit, it was like, yo, I can't go to nothing.
Right. Shut down.
Yeah, it was shut down. Like, my wife had to go to all of the appointments by herself. And then I was like, well, so how is this gonna work, like, when we actually have the baby, you
Right.
know? And, it wasn't that bad, 'cause it was kind of towards the tail end. Like,
Okay.
we were, like, slowly trying to come out of the pandemic. But at first, when when I found out she was pregnant, it was literally, I found out my wife was pregnant January 2019.
Okay.
And then boom, the pandemic, right? So her whole pregnancy was in the pandemic. And I think that was the hardest part, right? So like that whole part where like you hear the first heartbeat and stuff,
Yeah.
I missed it.
You missed it. You couldn't even
Yeah,
experience it.
yeah, I couldn't even experience it. Like, to whereas my son, you hear him moving, you hear that first heartbeat, but I had none of that with my daughter.
So I'm curious, like, and I'm sorry.
No,
but,
go ahead. I did this on yours.
Yeah, I'm interested. So did they prepare you for like, hey, you might not even be at the hospital
Yeah.
for delivery?
What I got, insane.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
And as a father, how did that make you feel? Especially when you just went through the situation with your oldest, and then to know that, your youngest, you're not about to see,
Yeah.
you could possibly not see this happen.
It was frustrating, but then it also was a part of, I just want to do whatever I need to do to make sure that my child's safe.
Right.
Because at that time, you got to think about it. Like, we didn't really know how this was working in terms of COVID, right?
Right.
No,
we didn't really
Yeah, that's
understand it, right? And the only thing we were getting on the news and the media was just how bad this is, and that this is actually killing people, right?
Right.
So I think I was more of a space to where I wasn't arguing with nobody over this. It was like COVID was the Trump.
Yeah.
Like, so like, imagine if we, if you wanted to, have a date, or if you wanted to have somebody over your house, you can always use COVID as an excuse. Like, I got COVID.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's
I
no
didn't want you
question.
to see my baby anyway.
Yeah,
We
it's
got
no
COVID.
question. Yeah. And then, like, for all the moms who are like germaphobes, right?
Yeah.
This was the perfect moment.
Yeah,
was.
COVID.
Right.
So for me, I was just kind of in that space where I was like, yo, whatever y'all say is best.
Mm-hmm.
But I did have that anxiety about, like, man, like, how's this going to work when the baby's born? And then I also felt like I was missing out.
You're right.
Yeah.
Those moments that she'll never get back.
Yeah, yeah.
And then did your wife express that to you? Was she showing signs of stress in the midst of that? Like, how did that work with y'all? Was it stressful?
Nah, man, I I think in that era, you're forced to be with each other.
You are. We were definitely forced.
Like you're forced. Like so, it's not like it's not like
you didn't have a choice.
yeah. It's and it was the second time around.
Yeah.
So like a lot of times on the second time around, like people are like, all right, you know what I mean. I think it was the second time around. It's COVID. I think my wife and I were just kind of taking the doctor's orders. You know what I mean. No issues. Hey, if you guys feel like this is best, then it's just what we have to do. Now, if this was my first kid,
Right.
I know for a fact I would feel a certain type of way.
Right.
Missing out on heartbeats, missing out on ultrasound, like that would bother me. But
Right.
being that this is the second time around, I was like,
You were more chill about it.
yeah, I was more
essentially.
chill about it. Exactly.
And then how were all of your pregnancies, having 3 older kids, were they all smooth? Did you ever experience any kind of like situations that could have been like, oh, this could cause stress, this could cause a problem for you or for your girl at the time? Like, what did that look like?
That's a great question.
You have any
I think.
Braxton Hicks, man?
I
Since
didn't.
James had all 3 of them.
Right.
What did it look like for you in real life?
Anxiety. My body changed. No,
Your
all
body
those.
changed. You went through your man postpartum. Exactly.
Absolutely.
Booty got big.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good one.
Can't.
But no, that's a great question. I think for me, through each pregnancy, it made us closer as a bond, right? Because there's something unique about every child that you have, I think.
True.
And when you have the first one, of course, it's the first, and
Right.
it's just like you're experiencing this, and it's awesome, and you want to be there for all the heartbeats and all the ultrasounds and all that good stuff. And then the next kid is like, all right, I feel like I'm prepared, right? But then some things can come up where you're
Right.
like, oh, this is something I didn't expect because we didn't go the first go.
Right.
And it's funny, so as you have more kids, the kids kind of experience that with you, right? So they have different thoughts of like what was going on.
Right.
And this is a funny story. So for my last kid, my youngest, 2 things. We're on the way, we're at a party.
Okay.
My wife's water breaks.
While you're driving there?
No, we're at the party, kids party, at a friend's birthday
God.
cake, and in the middle of all that, we just sung "Happy Birthday," water breaks, right?
That's like a movie experience. I wanted that experience. I wanted to show out for mine. Like, ta-da! Like, you know what I'm saying? I wanted that moment.
Right, and
I
it-
had to get mine all like 5 a.m. You're online and make sure this happens. Like, okay, all right.
No,
I wanted
absolutely,
that.
and it felt like a movie because so water breaks. They're all understanding, like, oh yeah, it's happening. So we're like rushing in, we're frantic. My daughter, she has to get her birthday cake, right?
Oh,
So
she was serious about it.
She was serious. So we all left, went in the car, and we're headed to the hospital. And she's like, wait, we didn't get our birthday cake.
Oh no.
And so after that, I'm like shamelessly going back into the house because I love my daughter. So she gets what she wants. And I'm like, yeah, can we get 3 pieces of birthday
Wife
cake?
was already in
before
the car and everything.
car ready to go. And I had to go get the birthday cake and then, come back with that.
Oh, my God.
And everybody was looking like, okay,
Dealing with
yeah.
other kids though, that's like, if that's gonna save me from a tantrum,
Yeah,
I'm gonna
absolutely.
do it.
Because you want everything to go smooth, right?
Right.
So it's like, we can't have that at the hospital. So here's your birthday cake.
And daughters run your house.
They do.
Daughters do run the house.
They run the
They
house.
do.
Yeah.
My oldest runs the house. Yeah, she just, whatever she wants, she usually gets.
Now they
And it's-
say that relationships change, once you start adding more kids into the picture. You touched on a really cool thing about how you just said, by the second kid around, it was like, okay, both of you have spoke on the second kid around.
Yeah.
Right.
And I know for our situation in my personal life, like my boyfriend came into it with the same energy, second kid.
You're
I'm
right.
prepared. I know what I'm about to do, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But then things started happening that wasn't like the first kid.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So me, when I'm so used to hearing that I got this, you're new, I'm the one who's certified, I've done this before. I'm
Right.
thinking that anything that happens, you should know, right? Because it's your first kid. You already are a vet in this.
Yeah, we went through it.
Right.
Yeah.
So you would think that, but then when the new kids come in and they have different needs and things look differently, that changes the perspective in the relationship.
That's a fact.
It can
does.
totally change things up because you're not ready for it. You weren't prepared for it. So what does your relationships look like going through changes with different kids? Did you guys get stronger or did there become, and I don't want y'all to lie to me either just because we got lights and stuff on the camera.
Yeah, that's a good
So
question.
did it change? And at what kid did you see a difference?
It's a shift.
It
you
wasn't
know?
a shift.
Like and that's the thing about relationships, right? And what makes, I'm not gonna say relationships unique, but what makes relationships dope is that you choose to stay.
Right.
You choose to stay regardless of.
You're committed. Right?
Yeah, but you're committed. Like regardless of life shifts,
Right.
you decide to make a conscious choice to stay, right? And my daughter, wasn't in the plan, but now she's here,
Right.
right? And man, space is an issue, right? Space is an issue.
I noticed that too.
Finances
That's so funny.
is an issue.
Space.
No,
Time is an issue.
Right.
Like it's like, okay, and trying to figure out how do I negotiate 2 kids and how do I really push forward with trying to negotiate my wife, my son, and my daughter. I think as parents, it's funny because the days get less. All that stuff that people go into relationships with, all the fun stuff.
Yeah.
Like all the Friday nights going to kick it, happy hours, dinners.
All that.
All that shit is family now. It's fucking birthday parties. It's
Blippy,
the grocery store.
Elmo.
It's Blippy and Elmo. Like, so yes, it does shift your relationship. Like you guys are not spending time with each other no more. So the people who figure out a way to balance all that, I commend them.
Cole, let me ask you this. Who do you think it affected more? Your wife or you? Having those things taken away, who did it affect more? You or your wife?
Adding kids?
Adding kids and that shift of the date nights, the vibes, we outside. Who did that affect more, your wife or you?
Probably me.
Really?
Yeah, because I remember.
But honesty.
Yeah, well, no, because so I enjoyed, like, it wasn't like, because my wife's not like turned up, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I would say like I've been to the club with her maybe
She's definitely
twice.
more quiet,
She's
reserved.
chill.
Yeah, like I've been to the club with her maybe twice.
Yeah.
And 15 minutes, she was like, dude, I'm over it.
Kids messed up
Same.
Cole's whole vibe.
Yeah, like,
My feet hurt. It's time to wrap it up.
Yeah.
See your friends or not?
Yeah.
Let's go.
But for me, like, I enjoy going out to brunch.
Yeah.
With my wife, I enjoy going to dinner with my wife. I enjoyed those type of things. And then when you start having kids, man, it's like you just don't have the capacity anymore.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because I'm the type of parent, like some people are like cool with dropping their parents off, their kids off with other people. Like, hey, Sadie, here's my 2. I'm about to go kick it real quick. And even if you offer that to me, I'm like, they're
I
my
don't know you like
responsibility.
that. Or,
No, but they're my responsibility.
true. Exactly.
That's kind of how I take it as a father. They're my responsibility, so I need to do whatever I can to try to make sure that my kids are straight on my own. But yeah, it does shift your relationship. And a lot of times it's time, space, finances.
And your experience?
It's very similar to Cole's. I think it does create different relationships, right? I love my kids all the same. But, they have different personalities, and sometimes we're gelling, sometimes we're not. And you got to figure out as a parent of like, how to navigate that. Right? Because what works for one kid not necessarily works for the other
Exactly.
kid, right? So you got to figure those moments to connect, like whatever their interests are, make sure you're into that.
Right.
Even though that might not be your vibe,
Yeah.
you got to make sure you're taking time to really listen
Yeah.
and really engage in like, oh yeah, you like this, tell me more about it, and those things. So it has been a huge shift. And I like what Co said as far as, and what the both of you are talking about when it comes to how does that now change the relationship with your spouse or your significant other.
Because you're learning.
Yeah.
You're learning, like, dang, I didn't
together.
realize that you could be like that. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
I noticed in my situation, the nurturing aspect of it. And then it made me start thinking of my father and my grandparents and what that looked like, how,
Absolutely.
my son can be crying, he instantly knows I gotta go holler at mom, because that ain't gonna break down the way mom's gonna be like, oh, give me a hug and do those things. And it makes me question, like, is that a normal, just male thing? Do you find yourself being the cuddling kind of thing? Because I will often say to my boyfriend, can you come give him a hug? Because I'm tired of giving out all the hugs. Who's going to give him a hug now,
So it's funny you say that, because real quick, Co, is like with this millennial age, like that's what I enjoy about it. I don't know. I'm on the border, like Gen X.
You on the,
like
both of y'all on the cusp?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like 79.
We're X, we're 79.
Oh, yeah.
So we're right a year behind. But I think what it has done is that vulnerability,
Right.
right? Like, it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to be, I don't have to be this stoic father figure of like,
Right.
no, we don't cry, we don't do this. It's
Right.
like, no, you can come to me for a hug, son.
Right.
I will give you a hug and I will embrace you in that way, and we can talk.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Whatever it's about. Like, I do like this new age of how things have shifted and we talk about this a lot on our podcast of like gender roles, right? Like
Right.
back in the day, women had to do this, men had to do this.
Right.
And we had a conversation of like, and this is no knock to my father because he was a great father,
Right.
but it was basically when we needed to go to school, practice, that was all mom.
Really?
House bills and all that, like that was handled by dad. And
Yes.
you know, if you need financial needs, that was dad. But now, like, we're picking the kids up from school. We're taking the kids to their practice. Like, it's a joint effort when it comes to that.
Yep.
So
I tell my son I love him every day. I tell my son I love him. Man, I dap him up. You know what I mean? I hug him. You know. But I can't say I am that dad. It's like, man, get up, dude.
Yeah, that's my that's my
no,
thing.
you
Get
do.
up.
you can do
Just push
both.
forward. Yeah, but that's the balance. Like, yo, but I tell him, and I tell him every day, like, yo, I love you. I love you, dog.
That
And I tell
balance
him-
is key right there. I can say
yeah.
you do both.
Yeah, like, and that's kind of my process. Like,
Yeah.
I don't ever want him to say, man, yo, my dad never told me that he loved me. And that's why sometimes, man, I watch Fences. That's just such a great movie.
Good one.
Fences is such a great movie.
Yeah, you got to get on that.
And it's just it just really it doesn't bridge the gap, but it explains what a man's thought process was in the 50s in terms of what his role was in the household, right? And even all the way to the point of how he fathered his son. And it's very important, especially with these kids nowadays as a dad. I mean, you gotta hug them, you gotta love them.
All of that. They have to feel it from the father as well.
Exactly.
Not just all mom.
Exactly.
You made a good point about the gender roles and having those conversations. I think we talked about that, back on your guys' podcast as well, where I mentioned, I was right back to work in 4 weeks. I had
Yeah,
two
that
jobs.
was
I'm balancing
nuts.
a
I couldn't
newborn. I've got a
believe you did that.
nanny. I'm paying bills in this house. I'm doing a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
When we talk about the way women are dealing with motherhood and parenting and working and all those things, I want to know from a male's perspective, what are some things that you didn't realize until you had these kids that women are capable of doing? That you might have been like, dang, I didn't realize this is what it comes with, and I'm actually clapping it up for my chick because I didn't know this. You know what I'm saying?
All of that. Like, so.
That's a lot.
So
That is a lot, man.
But to James' point earlier, that bond that you have with the woman once you see them have a child, dude, is unreal, right? To watch them, man, take the epidurals, man, freaking throwing up in the room, to being back at work at 4 weeks, to still paying bills, to cooking, cleaning, washing, I think guys, I think in this group, I think we are really well aware of the sacrifice that having a child presents to a woman.
Did you learn more about your partner?
Yeah.
After that?
Yeah. The resiliency aspect. But I think in my mind, and I own this. I own this judgment. A man couldn't have babies.
Right.
Because we just don't have the patience. We're not.
No, 100.
We're
You
not
honestly
as.
feel that too?
Yeah. We're not as resilient. We're not. And please don't take this the wrong way.
Yeah.
We're not as long suffering. Like when we go through shit, we want to end it now.
Right.
Like we don't got time to go through the process.
Yeah, we got 9 months.
Yeah.
Men are built for
hell.
speed. Like men are built for speed. Like I do CrossFit with Jay.
Yeah.
And women kill that shit because
They do.
it's endurance. To where if you throw me under a bench and let me just go 5 sets heavy weight, I can do that.
Right.
Yeah, and as we talk about that, I think from what I learned from my wife as she had kids is that she needs help.
Hello.
You know what I mean?
We're talking about that support.
Yeah, the support aspect of it, because to Cole's point, like, y'all do all the work, you know. Y'all really don't need a man when it comes to having a child, right? Like, you do everything you need, nourish it, care for it, all that. You know what I mean? While it's developing in your body. And it's like, we're thinking, well, what can we do, you know, to really help you out? Like, let me think about what that looks like, you know, and that's external things like going to get groceries, going to do these simple tasks that you might have done in the past. Now, that's my responsibility. Let me wash the clothes. Let me, you know, fold clothes whenever I can. And I think that showed a different appreciation towards her of like, yeah, this is a lot. Because for me, like, I'm wired to be at work, you know, get the money, you know, do this stuff and make sure like all the financials is in place. But let me step outside of that comfort zone and, you know, do those things that I haven't done in the past.
And ask for help. Like women struggle with asking for help.
That's
from
true.
From their spouses. Like, I got it. Like, like, and guys are like, guys ain't gonna sit there and go back and forth.
No. We're not gonna go back and forth.
They be like, nah, like, I'm gonna have to go clean that back up after you did it.
I don't have time for that. You're not going back to the game. How about you just monitor what I'm doing and pick up the slack? Why you gotta ask me? Like,
we are horrible at paying that much attention to anything.
That part.
You know what I mean? So it's like the expectation is, you see all this.
Right. You have to have a discussion. You know.
Yeah, I see all this.
You're smart enough.
But then, so I see all this, but you have your certain process. Because then if I bring my process to all this,
stop.
That's a problem
Put
too.
it down.
Put it down. You know what? I got it.
Like,
so let me go get back to the Bronco.
Take these bottles off the table.
It looks so different with you guys. And that's probably, I think, the biggest issue that I even hear from women in my age group heavily is that, like, you know, you see it. Why do we have to have these conversations of, well, what do you need help? You in the house with me every day. You know the process, you know the routine. Why are we having this conversation? If I'm doing it and I'm just thinking about it, you know, I went to Vegas this past weekend. I come back, he knows the daycare is Monday morning, he's gonna need that blanket and that sheet. Laundry ain't been done yet, but you knew it was coming. So those are the things, but as a woman, I'm thinking ahead. I come back in the house, I'm like, yo, does that laundry already happen? But you watching the Nuggets. The Nuggets. The Nuggets taking the playoff.
We struggle with multitasking. We are very linear thinkers. And that's what I'm saying. I saw this really cool reel on Instagram, and it said, women have to stop looking at men through female eyes, and men need to stop looking at women through male eyes. That's the divider right there in terms of why we struggle to communicate. Because I'm telling you, man, we're like task. Okay, I'm done with this.
One task at a time.
Yes, it's not. We're not built to do multiple things at one time or to predict things. We're not good predictors.
Yeah. It's taking time to have patience on both sides, I think. And that's what you see a lot. Understanding the female bodies and how we get back into the game and what that looks like. And then also understanding your guys' perspective of it. I've never heard that before. And that's actually a really good thought process, because when I see it in my father, I saw it in my grandfather, it's a very task oriented. But you look at the ladies, they cooking, they changing diapers, they're doing all that at one time. And there's that forgiveness that I think that a lot of us don't really have a chance to kind of have. But now hearing that perspective, even though y'all both get on my nerves and y'all attack me, I think that this is good clarity to have so I can move forward. This podcast, I want to thank I want to thank my dude Jay for coming in and helping me out and having a conversation from the father's perspective. Y'all asked for it and you finally got it, so thank you, even though y'all both still annoy me.
Oh, man. Thanks for having us. This was a blast.
This was a blast.
Absolutely.
I appreciate you for taking the time to listen to this episode of the Black Millennial Mom Podcast. And you know, the conversation doesn't have to end here. Reach out on any of your favorite social media platforms by searching for @YourGirlSadies. You can find the Black Millennial Mom Podcast on all streaming platforms, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and Spotify. And be sure to let us know what you think by leaving us a comment below.